What's good, my Pacifica family? I'm here today with Trinity and Tara from Rainier Valley Midwives, and we are going to be talking about healthy eating during pregnancy, especially for our communities. How about we go ahead and start with introductions? Tara, are you ready?
Sure. Aloha, everyone. I'm Tara Lawal. I am connected to the PI Health Board in a few ways. I am one of the original founders and currently serving as the president of the PI Health Board, co-president. And it's just an honor to be here with you today. I love the work that we're doing. And I just want to thank you for inviting Rainier Valley Midwives out here to talk with you. I'm also the co-founder and executive director of the Rainier Valley Midwives. I am a trained midwife and love working with birth and with people. I've been on a doula and in the birth world for about 13 years. I started this organization back in 2015 in South Seattle with the purpose and intent to serve, families of color, people who look like me, who've had struggles with pregnancy and with finding good care. And then just knowing that really we have to get back to trusting our bodies and listening to our bodies to guide and navigate us through our healthcare. So that's why I'm here today. And I'm grateful to welcome Trinity here with us today. Trinity, do you want to introduce yourself and the work that you do?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Trinity Gorbanova. I am a certified lactation consultant with Rainier Valley Midwives. I've also been working with the WIC program as nutrition assistant for the last 5 years. So I was graciously invited to be in this space from Rainier Valley to share my experience with nutrition as a Black woman, and also working with the nutrition program for the last 5 years, and just sharing my perspective on that. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies, so much for being here today. And before we continue forward, I would just like to say thank you for the work that you contribute to our community. You're very needed and very loved and appreciated. So with that, I will start with our first question. Let's define healthy eating in general, just a generalization.
Okay, I can start. I guess as like a disclaimer, I'm not a dietitian. I don't have that, background. This is my take on what healthy eating is. I don't believe that there's bad foods. Like every food serves a purpose, whether that's to fuel our bodies, to heal our bodies, to make us feel like we're home, to remind us of our mom's cooking, to bring us joy, right? So I don't like the binary of healthy food and non-healthy food per se, because non-healthy foods get like pushed to the side of like, oh, we should limit this or we should avoid these foods when they're serving another purpose, right? But in general, healthy eating, I like the quote from what's his name, Michael Pollan, the author. He says, eat plants, not too much, or eat food, mostly plants, not too much. That's kind of the gist of what I go off of for what I think healthy eating looks like.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that there are no healthy or non-healthy foods. It's how you use it and your intention behind it. I love it. And thank you for those quotes too. Our next question is, what is the importance of eating healthy while pregnant?
Well, I'll start this one too. During pregnancy, it's a greater demand on what your body is usually its normal daily functions, right? Since you're growing an entire human. So the healthy eating not only allows you to feel the most like yourself and to nourish your body to function in the best way that you can, but it also helps your baby grow and to have the best outcomes possible for the baby. So thinking like a healthy birth weight and birth defects, things like that really are tied a lot with nutrition. So we want to be attentive to what we have access, what we're able to intake during that time.
That's a very good point. Tara, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, when you're pregnant, sometimes there's like this relief that you're like, oh, I can eat whatever I want. I'm eating for two. I can let my belly hang out. I don't have to suck it in. And there's this relief and this feeling where like, oh yeah, for 9 months I don't have to worry. And it's like you let your body do what you want to do. And sometimes people can do that and they can, gain a healthy amount of weight. Sometimes people eat something or they smell something and it just comes right out, and they really can't keep a lot of foods down and they struggle with trying to even eat. And so you just never know what's going to happen with your body, and you never know like what that pregnancy is going to look like. Every pregnancy is so different, and some pregnancies you gain a lot of weight and some you don't. My personal experience, I I look the same whether I'm pregnant or not. And so people couldn't tell I was pregnant, and I would forget that I was pregnant, and I would forget to eat. I would forget to I just started going on autopilot, and I forgot to be intentional with being pregnant, and I forgot to listen to my body, and I forgot to be mindful. And so this is something like that. If you When this happens, you really have to take a moment and hope you can find some help. Um, and really, I turned to the midwives, my own midwives here at Rainier Valley Midwives, and they helped me because um, I realized that if I don't eat the right foods, then diabetes will, my gestational diabetes will be at play. Hypertension, I can lead to having my baby early, which I did. I think I'm going to end up talking about my baby and my pregnancy this whole hour because it was all centered around food, and I didn't realize that food was medicine during pregnancy, and what I put into my body saved my baby's life, and the way that I monitored it is what helped me to have a healthy baby. And I'll tell you, it was a struggle to grow him, and it was a struggle to keep him in long enough. I had to get admitted early to keep him in. Um, and so this is going to be, I'll just give you a warning. This is going to be a hard topic for me, and I will share how hard it was being a Pacific Islander woman with um, a very strong family history of heart disease, of diabetes. Um, my grandfather had his heart attack in his 40s, and while he was spearfishing out in the bay, um, in the water, and he passed away, leaving my grandmother with 13 kids to raise by herself. Um, I've had uncles and my own father have a heart attack in his 40s, and leaving my dad completely disabled at 42 years old, leaving my mother to have to go back to work and raise 9 children on one income. And my dad had undiagnosed diabetes, and he didn't even know that this was happening. He's very slender and thin. He's Indo-Fijian, and the stress of living here in the US, he's an immigrant, first generation. I'm first generation coming here, and having a lot of children in our family, we ate what we could afford. I grew up on rice and chicken and a vegetable and rice at all 3 meals, eggs and rice for breakfast. And we just had rice, pots of rice all the time. And then the other thing that was cheap was Kool-Aid and Tang and soda and cocoa and crackers, and that's what we ate with butter. And so you come to the US and that's what we ate. We ate what we ate at home. I grew up on Spam musubi. It's just like all these things that we ate because of poverty and the way it was survival. Um, and when it was time to get pregnant, I was still eating rice. So, and I didn't know. And it's like Trinity said, like, there's no unhealthy food. It's just rice 3 times a day. We just didn't know. And a lot of those things I had to learn and unlearn and relearn. And and it wasn't until I was pregnant that I closely monitored everything that went into my mouth. And it was only because I had a baby growing inside of me. Because I wouldn't do this for myself. And that's the thing that I really want to urge today is that um, you are worth it, and you are worth taking care of yourself so that everybody else that you're taking care of um, can, that they can survive because of you. And so, yeah, there's a lot of importance to eating healthy while you're pregnant. And um, I think we might have to dig into a little bit today and get real. This is a hard topic. We don't talk about foods in this way in our community. Um, and so if you allow me to do that, I think I will today.
I just want to first acknowledge you, Tara, for sharing all of that information, of that personal family information. And when you speak, I see my aunties, I see my family,
Mhm.
and I feel so special to be a part of this moment with the both of you. And let me bring it back in because I've been literally crying all day. But let's just take a second and everyone just take a deep breath. In and out. And it's looking like this live session is going to be so healing for so many people and just something that we need to start normalizing and that everybody needs to hear. So I'm here for your story. Everybody who's watching and who will watch is here for your story. And I gotta open the bread for my kids. And everybody who is going to watch are going to feel exactly what you two are meant to bring today. So as we continue forward, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, whatever comes to your heart, just let it.
Thank you.
So our next question, what does healthy eating look like for our community? This can be how you think we can take how we already eat and change it little by little to make it healthier for living, or how are we already eating that's already healthy to sustain who our peoples are, our body structure, where we come from.
This is so personal, right? Everybody, food is so personal and it's so it's so interwoven to how we communicate with each other, how we come together. Food is why we gather, right? And we gather together. And um, it's the best part of being part of my family. You come into one space and there's so much food, and so it's so different. Everybody brings what they're good at making, and something that you never have to worry about is there going to be enough food? Because
True.
we never have to ask that question. We all just know to bring plenty. You bring enough to share. And there's something about food that is, there's so much gratitude in food. And when we come together, we always, pray in gratitude, but it's also our way of like, it's an offering to your family. When
Mhm.
you can provide for your family and have food at the table, that is a huge blessing, right? And it's also our way of showing, God and each other that we have abundance. And that was something when you grow up in a family of like 9 children and, your mom had 13 children. My grandma would pray every night that she would have food at the table. And that was a huge blessing to be able to offer all her children something to eat. And same with my mom. That is like our greatest fear is that we can't feed our kids and we can't nourish and take care of them. And so, healthy eating for my community is that we have abundance and that we have food to take care of each other. Um, and so we don't, going into the weeds of like, is this food okay? Is this food okay? Does it have the nutritional value? That's not the purpose of eating. And so this is something new to us, creating this healthy, what is healthy. Um, which is why when we are, as health professionals, we're seeing the downstream line, like what happens to families from drinking a lot of soda and from eating the rice and having huge portions of protein, right? We see that in the hospital or in pregnancy, we see these outcomes. And it's so easy for people to go and blame the food and blame, oh, what are you eating? What are you watching on TV? How, what are the kids doing? How come you're not exercising? But that's not where the blame lies. And then we shouldn't be putting blame, and so it's just, this is where the complication gets. But how can we actually think of food for what it is and the abundance and the gratitude and the gathering? Um, Trinity, I don't want to take all the time. So feel free to end.
No, you're good. I'm just like in awe and just like soaking in all of your words. So thank you for sharing as much as you have. For me, it's complicated, right? Because I'm reading one thing about the government guidelines, trying to follow it, and it's not matching up with how I grew up, how to eat, or what food is, or what food even makes me happy to eat, because I love food and I want it to be a joyful experience, right? So there's a disconnect from my experience of what I'm being told to eat and what's in front of me. So I went through a phase of like, I'm going to be strictly vegetarian because like that's something good for me, right? Plants are good. And then it lasted maybe like 6 days. It's like I went to my mama's house and like everything has pork fat and that makes all the food good. Like if I would rather like I won't feel like who I am as a person if I can't eat my mom's food, right? So like there is a part of me that would be unhealthy if I couldn't eat my family's foods or my cultural foods. So I don't think there's a right answer. And if there's, and nutrition again is personal, it's based on what you have access to eat, what you have time to prepare, what you even, if there's dietary restrictions, if there's so many factors at play in addition to our culture and what makes us feel like ourselves. So I don't think there's a direct answer to what healthy eating looks like, but it's about gathering and community and having food to share. I go to my mom's house with Tupperware in my car because I'm like, she's gonna feed me. And that I know that she's communicating love. It's not just carbohydrates and protein, right? So there's a lot that goes into a hot meal.
This is all true. When I was, I was going to say when I was raising my kids, as I'm raising my kids, my mom always reminds me, because I like stress out about what I'm feeding them, because I'm trying to be more health conscious. But she always reminds me, when you're growing up, all I gave you were potatoes, eggs, and rice. And I'm like, I'm perfectly fine right now. So it's all, I have to bring it back to what we said earlier, which is the intention and the meaning of food. We always remember that, especially when you're going through pregnancy, your meaning for food changes. And you can still do what you need, what you do with your family and how you eat, but there's always that thing in the back of your mind where you have to remember that you are growing a person and you have to be healthy enough for them too. Our next question is, do you have any recommendations for those with diabetes during pregnancy?
I would say if you have private insurance, to try to find a like a registered dietitian who's a person of color to walk you through what choices are available to you, and having a voice and being advocate for the type of care that you want to receive, because there's no one way to treat it or address it if you've already developed gestational diabetes or diabetes before pregnancy. I guess my biggest thing is trying to find care where you can advocate for yourself to have care that is meaningful to you. If you don't have private insurance, then if you qualify for WIC, right, coming to see a dietitian here as a good start of a plan that's personalized, that again with foods that you enjoy, that you have access to, that can help maintain a healthy blood sugar level. But I mean, yeah, in general, vegetables, protein, right, are things that help maintain a lower blood sugar. And then things like carbs or sugar tend to spike it. Again, there's no bad food, but just knowing how foods relate to each other and how your body will respond to it. But again, and if you don't feel safe in the space where you're receiving care, finding a friend or finding someone who can advocate for you to get the care that you need, because you deserve it. So.
Okay, I told you I'm going to tell you my story. So it starts with gestational diabetes, right? And I will tell you, like, I actually had diabetes when I started my pregnancy. So it wasn't gestational, it's just I had diabetes. So it comes up differently in pregnancy, right? And the thing about gestational diabetes, if you are diagnosed with that in pregnancy, it can go away after your pregnancy, right? And so you have your baby and you can get your body and your pancreas to start working the right way together. However, it is a crystal ball, right? So if you do get diagnosed with diabetes, there is a really high chance that you'll end up with diabetes later on. And so what you do and what you learn in pregnancy is so important. And I'm going to just tell you, I pulled together a team to help me get through my pregnancy. I could not do it alone. You have to get support. So I started with my midwives, who are awesome, who also had, they also have experience with diabetes. So they really got me on target. And then we got an OB on board who, in any case that I had to deliver at the hospital, I met with my OB first, right? So KJ's the first birth bundle baby where we do all of our care with our midwives. And then if you need a hospital care, we collaborate with an OB. And then if you need to deliver with the OB, we transfer care and there's a smooth transition. And my midwife came with me to the hospital and helped me through a really hard pregnancy and hard delivery. And then worst case scenario, your baby has to get sent to the NICU and he's sick. I had a whole team already in place. And so what I would say is find the good providers. It is worth it for you to shop around. Go find somebody who's going to listen to you. Find someone who actually treats you like a human being. And there's no judgment, no shame. They're supportive. They're like, we're going to get you to 27 weeks, Tara. Okay, now we're at 27. We're going to get you to 28 weeks. We're going to get you to 30 weeks. We'll get you to 34. We're going to do what we can to get you all the way to the end. And we're going to help you grow a healthy baby. And something that my OB said is, Tara, if you want to get all the way to dates and you don't want a C-section, then you have to have perfect sugars. And I was like, okay, I can do perfect sugars. It was like a challenge, right? And we're like, I want a healthy baby. Tell me what I got to do. If you tell me, I'll do anything. This is a long-awaited, cherished baby, right? I've wanted this baby for so long. Tell me what to do. I can do this. I can do this for 40 weeks. I can do this to get there. And so I did. I made sure I had perfect sugar. I'm like, tell me, what do you want me to do for fasting? I was poking myself 7 times a day and reading my blood sugars to make sure that my blood sugar was perfect in the morning. I'd eat my breakfast, poke it again an hour later, have lunch, poke it before, poke it after, make sure that it was happening. And it was the hardest thing to do. It was hard because I also had to eat a lot. I wasn't used to eating that much. When you figure out you have gestational diabetes, your tendency is to stop eating. I'm not going to have any sugar. I won't have bread. I'm not going to have rice. That will just tank you. And you were not going to grow a healthy baby. And so I needed to know, what are the right foods for me to eat? What's the tricks? And I learned there's some tricks. Drinking water all day long, having water next to me was a huge thing. So having water, eating protein, and that water and protein got me through the day. And then I actually had to eat a lot more food during pregnancy than I ever imagined I would. And I had to eat smaller meals throughout the day. I had to have almonds as snacks. I had to learn which foods spiked and which didn't. For some reason, tacos were like the perfect taco salad was like that one thing that made me feel full, and I could eat a lot of it and my blood sugars would stay even. So you start finding which foods help you. In the morning, eggs. I could eat eggs and keep my blood sugar the same. Eggs with avocado and sour cream, and salsa. I actually found good things that I like to eat. And so you learn to eat the right foods. I had to take away all sugar, like juice, soda, sometimes milk. There were different things that just would spike my blood sugar, but you keep track of it and you actually learn all the tricks. And a lot of it is the water. Actually, the more water I would drink, it would help bring it back down too. And so there's this play that when you eat, your blood sugar goes up and you want it to come back down and mellow out. And then you start to get to a place where you're not having these huge spikes and huge dips. But you only do it if you actually keep track. So it was in pregnancy that I learned to keep track of it. And I'll be honest, there's times when I really wanted cookies and donuts and ice cream. And if you go to a dietitian, they'll say, yes, you can have that, which threw me off. So when Trinity said, be careful where you go, some of the diabetes clinics are not teaching you how to even out your blood sugar. They're like, well, it's okay. Eventually you're going to have to be on insulin. So, you can eat what you want. We'll use medicine to curb it. That's not what we want to do. We really want to control it and protect your blood sugars with food. This is how food is your medicine. The right foods will help your body um, metabolize everything that it needs to do. And then the other biggest cheerleaders that I have are my nephews. Okay, they were little. They were like 6 and 10, and every time I wanted something like a cookie or a donut, especially donuts, they would always say, "Auntie, for the love of your unborn child, put that donut down." And that was their job. For the love of our unborn baby, Auntie, just put it down. You don't need it. And every day I would hear it all day from these kids. And I was like, guys, can we just go through McDonald's one time? And they're like, Auntie, for the love of your unborn child, you told me to say this. And so they taught. Oh, one thing that was a really awesome trick for me was protein shakes. And whenever I wanted something sweet, um, my nephew would help me make my protein shake, and I told him when I'm in labor, you need to bring me these protein shakes. But the one that I love is called Orgain, and it's actually a New Zealand product. Okay, and it's made out there. Costco has them. They're called the Orgain protein shake. Um, and what I would do is I'd put ice in the blender, pour the protein shake in there, and it's already pre-mixed. Now, back when I was pregnant, it was a powder. So I'd use the powder. Then I would put coconut water and peanut butter with the chocolate Orgain, and it is so good. And that's how I would start my day, was with a protein shake. Like, I would take my blood sugar, have my protein shake, and then my breakfast, and it actually helped keep me full. And then I got to a point at night. I needed just something to help me get through the hunger, or I don't know what it is, but I think the protein really just helped me be able to even out and not crash in the middle of the night where you get shaky. And that's the thing I wasn't used to, is like, you have to be careful and monitor how you're feeling. If you're feeling shaky, if you're feeling a headache, you have to keep track of what do foods make you do and which foods are healing. And so to me, I needed that protein in the first thing in the morning and last thing I eat at night. So I got to a point where I could have that protein, and quite a bit in pregnancy. Here's the trick. We kind of skipped over a question about vitamins and minerals that are important during pregnancy, but really it's water, protein, and a little bit of salt. Like, salt your food just enough so that you get the right amount of electrolytes that you need, um, and the protein that you need to grow a healthy baby. And it kind of counteracts the sugar, and especially the sugar cravings. So the more water and protein that you drink and eat, it can help you curb those cravings. Um, I could talk about diabetes for a long time. I think Jody Lynn's been trying to get me to help out with it, help plan a diabetes clinic here at RVM. And I think we need it, because it once you start to figure it out, it's so empowering. And you're like, yes, when your doctor says I need perfect sugars, you're like, heck yeah, I can do this. I want to do this, and I'll tell you, I didn't gain any weight in my pregnancy. um I actually lost 10 pounds, and I was actually healthier. That was the healthiest I've ever been, was during my pregnancy. And it was because I was committed to keep my baby safe as long as possible. Because I already had a lot of things going against me. And so this was the only thing I could control that would help me, know that I'm doing the best I can. Um, so yeah.
I really relate with a lot of what you just said. During my last pregnancy, I loved cinnamon rolls. I would eat like a pack of 4 jumbo cinnamon rolls every day. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. Like, my excuse was, I'm pregnant. I can eat what I want.
Yeah.
Until the one day my midwife came and she was like, your son's heart rate is spiking. Like, this is not normal. This is not okay. And we had that talk, that very scary talk that, I mean, sometimes you have to have, but you don't ever want to have that talk where you are the one putting your unborn child at risk for your eating habits.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, from that moment forward, it was just like, okay, I have to be on it. I was with the protein shakes too, the nuts, like just making sure I eat more protein instead of craving these sugars. So I'm sure a lot of other moms can relate to.
For the love of your unborn child, right? I know.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to skip to a question about breastfeeding and how can diet affect milk production and quality of breast milk?
Okay, I'll start. So what I was taught in my CLC training was like they did a study of a group of moms, some who had like a full nourished diet and some who were undernourished, just depending on their location, and like assessed like their baby's growth and their milk samples, things like that. And they didn't find any difference in the actual quality of the milk. The only difference was in the undernourished mothers, that they had less energy to bond and to hold and do skin to skin with their babies, but their actual milk was unimpacted. So how do I put this? Nutrition is important, of course, postpartum, because you delivered a human out of your body, and it takes like 2 years for all of those vitamins and minerals and protein stores to get back to normal. But also, while you're nursing, that takes a lot of energy too if you're nursing with your baby, right? So producing the milk, picking up the baby, and taking care of the baby takes energy. So we're not seeing poor nutrition impact nutrition that the baby is receiving. They will suck it out of any part of your body, right? Out of your bones, out of your blood, like wherever you have calcium and minerals and vitamins, they will find it and it will come out of your milk and your baby will be lovely, but your body will be depleted if you're not giving it what it needs. So it's important for us to be present as parents, to have proper nutrition while we're lactating, but our babies will be good no matter what. Which is, I mean, I guess like a good thing to know, but you know, we want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves too.
Sorry, I had a question for Trinity. So there's this, I don't know if it's a myth, but people say that if you breastfeed your baby, you'll lose weight and you can lose your pregnancy weight. And then there's some people that just don't. So, and then they're like, but I've been breastfeeding my baby and I'm still not losing weight. How can you help some of these families or parents that are like really trying?
Yeah. Well, anecdotally, I was told by an IBCLC that 1 day of nursing a baby full time is about the equivalent of a 5-mile run. Typically, like you expend a lot of calories and a lot of energy taking care of a small human and producing milk and all the activities that come along with doing that.
Yeah.
But you're also very hungry because you're expending a lot of energy, right? Like your body's responding to the fact that you're working extra hard. So you need more food to maintain your energy. So it gets a little bit tricky because oftentimes I see folks who drop their pregnancy weight really quickly. It's because they're not fully nourishing themselves to the extent that they need. So yes, nursing, chest breastfeeding, it's an effective way to expend calories, right? It takes a lot of energy. And so some folks will see rapid weight loss and some won't, just depending on how much you're intaking and how your body works, right? So I often don't pitch weight loss as like a bonus to lactation, right? Because I don't look at the scale, I don't look at the number, like there's health at every size, right? I'm a big proponent of that. But I've definitely had parents be disappointed that they're like, I was supposed to be so skinny, when like I'm like, no, like you're hungry because you're working so hard, right? And you should be eating, and because you're listening to your body, you're not losing weight super quickly, which in my opinion is positive. But of course, like they had expectations that weren't met.
Yeah.
So I think if that's something that a parent or a client wants to know about, I would say setting clear expectations of, you will use a lot of energy. Some people will lose weight pretty quickly, but some folks don't see weight loss. And that's also in the spectrum of what's normal, depending on so many factors, right? Of weight loss in general, of how we retain weight, of how we lose weight, hormones, etc. Right? And so, yeah, it's not guaranteed, but it's somewhat common.
I just need that part to be repeated on, you said equivalent to 5 miles.
Yeah.
5-mile run. Yeah.
I'm
Crazy.
gonna need everybody to understand that the next time I have a baby and I'm asleep on the couch and it looks like I'm not doing nothing, I just ran 5,000 miles.
5 miles every day, right? Like it's not just once, it's every day that this baby's eating around the clock. Like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Jeez. Wow.
Which is why it's so exhausting. Like pregnancy itself and growing a baby is exhausting. And then it's on the other side of feeding and nourishing now this little human and watching them grow. It's hard. It really is.
Hard is an understatement. It is. Let's see. I'm going to get to one more of our questions, and then I'm going to take a look at the chat. I think I saw a couple of questions in there too.
I wanted to make a very short comment about the vitamins and minerals, because we talked about protein, talked about water, folate, of course, right, which prevents birth defects. Folate's in food versus folic acid in your prenatal. Just kind of, there's ways to get it through food or in supplementation. But my family story, right, we don't have, my cousins are the ones who have had kiddos. I haven't had kiddos myself yet. But they have relatively low food access where they're living at in Kansas City. They're in a food desert, so it takes about a half hour to get to a proper grocery store, everything else like a corner store. And so their nutrition with pregnancy is relatively inconsistent, right, depending on what they have access to. But all of them struggle with pica. So like they wanted to eat cornstarch or chalk or non-food items because their bodies are saying, I need this thing that you're not giving me, and this is what I have access to, right? So it's wild to me what our bodies will go to the lengths to do to get like what it needs for us and for our growing baby. But if we're not, again, putting in what we need through what we have access to, our bodies will find other means, often through pica. So it's crazy to me. Yeah.
Can you explain what pica is?
Yeah, pica is like a strong craving for non-food items. So I know when I've struggled with anemia in the past, like I could smell like when the rain hit the sidewalk or hit dirt, and I was like, why do I want to eat that right now? And I'm like, I need something. I need to go get some iron, like supplements. I need to go eat a piece of meat. Like I knew that something was off, but it can be so strong to where it's almost compulsive. Like I've worked with kiddos who had like lead poisoning, so their iron was really, really, really low, and they couldn't go to the park without them eating handfuls of sand or handfuls of dirt because of how low their iron was. And so when my cousins were pregnant and their nutrition wasn't adequate for their baby or their body's needs, they would find packs of chalk to eat and spoonfuls of cornstarch. I think one of them ate pieces of toilet paper. So it's craving for non-food items based on a vitamin or mineral deficiency.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because there's also times in pregnancy when you crave just like sugar all the time, or like you just crave a certain type of something, but it's actually your body telling you that you need to put something else into your body. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You said it way better than I did.
No, I'm following. No, that's perfect.
The thing is, in pregnancy, all of your senses are heightened, right? And so you can hear, you can't sleep, everything is really sensitive. One of the most sensitive things is your nose. Your nose will tell you if something is just not right for you. Like, you'll have these gag reflexes and you're like, I just can't, and like certain spices, you just can't eat it. And it really is, your senses are telling you something. And so when you have that urge, that the smell of dirt and rain tells you you're hungry, like it is telling you something. And the thing is, we can see it as providers, we can see it in your results, your blood draws. But how many providers are actually reading the lab results? And that's the thing, where so many of our people of color are not getting adequate prenatal care, is because providers are slammed and they're not taking that time to look through the labs. And if they do, you're already way too anemic. And now we have our midwives scrambling to go get you into iron infusion therapy, right? And so, which happens, we get a lot of transfers into care, and our midwives are catching that. The first thing they do is look at the labs and how are people feeling, and scrambling on the weekend to try to get our clients into IV therapy. So I just want to plug, you have a good provider when they are working for you late at night, on the weekends, texting you, trying to make sure you're feeling okay, dropping off food to your house, bringing you soup, bone broth soup, certain things, bringing you herbs. Those are the type of midwives and doctors that you want to look for. They exist. They are out there. We're out there. That's how we treat our families. We really look at what is happening around you. What is everything that's going on to make you who you are as a person? And so I want you to know, if your provider is not taking that good of care of you, then just take one visit with us. And then and just know that there is good care out there. And if we're not the right midwives for you too, we will help you find the right midwives, because we have a lot of friends, we have a lot of doctors that we work with and partner with. But I want you to know you deserve good care. Something that came out from King County when they did a needs assessment was that Pacific Islander parents, pregnant people, are not accessing high quality prenatal care. They're coming to care too late. They're not trusting their providers. They're showing up to the hospital in labor with no prenatal care. And they're doing this at way higher rates than our white families and Black families. We are like, when you look at the chart, it's like, who's not accessing care? It's like white people are here, Black people are twice as that. And then here's the PI community. And so the Pacific Islander Health Board spent, oh my gosh, almost 18 months. And we did a study and we did listening groups. We held about 9 listening groups throughout King County, Pierce County, and Snohomish. And we asked that question, why aren't you going to prenatal care? And a big thing was they didn't trust their provider. And they didn't like the experience that happened to them when they went to the hospital or to their doctor, and they never came back. And so I want you to know that we care about you and that we will help you find the right provider for you. If you want a hospital birth, we will help you find the right person that will take you at a hospital. If you want a home birth, we can find the right provider. If you want a birth center birth, you want to meet in the halfway. You have lots of options. And so just know that, and that if you need help, like, please reach out to us. Trinity's email is out there. I saw mine out there. But we are here for you.
I don't even need to add anything onto that because that was perfect. Going to do a time check. It is 5:50, so we have 10 minutes. We do have 2 questions that I saw in the chat that I'll put up. Our first question is, diabetes is the major problem Pacific Islanders are facing. Question, how do you guys educate our Pacific community in continuing to eat healthy foods prior to colonialism? So,
I can speak from a WIC standpoint. I don't function outside of WIC anywhere in nutrition. So how do I put this? I'm like a mouthpiece for a state-sponsored program, right? Versus me being a provider like I am at RVCC as a lactation counselor, and I have more freedom. There currently, what we have access to at WIC is not culturally relevant to any community besides the white community in the US. So like, it's still drink 3 glasses of milk a day and have like, you know, kale and like whatever, like foods that aren't culturally relevant is what this government program is recommending, right? So, and those are like the cookbooks that we hand out, the guidelines, the expectations, the questionnaires, the how we determine someone's high risk or not for WIC is all based on a white Western male perspective on what food is. Mm-hmm. So, and when I went through nutrition, I went through like a couple courses in college. All of it was the same guidelines. So the understanding of, rather than looking at these major categories of food, instead of breaking it down to, okay, we need calcium, we need vitamin D, we need like even pizza, right? It still has grains, carbs, calcium, iron, like it has things that our bodies need in it, right? But we're not looking at it down to what it provides. We're looking at it as this is a bad food, right? So the education that I received and what I have to give out is not culturally relevant in the slightest. So taking these recommendations and modifying it in a way that's useful has been like an uphill challenge, at least in my experience.
Yeah. And really, you know, what it comes down to is you have to have the one-on-one care. You have to have somebody actually go through a recipe with you. You know, what are the foods that you like to eat? All right, you like chicken and rice. Let's talk about it and let's break it down. What are some substitutes or what are some things that we can do to add to this? You know, if you want to have a carbohydrate, then what can we add to help bring the blood sugar down, right? So what you could add to white rice is a brown rice. And so you could start with that instead of asking you to do a big substitute and say no rice and say no, you know, no white rice, and you only use this wild rice, you know, that is crunchy and tastes like bark. You know, you have to help make some modifications and some changes. And that's something that we do privately. So one-on-one, we go through, what does your diet look like? You know, food diaries are so great. If you could just write down, okay, this is what I ate for breakfast at this time. And then the other thing is portions, right? How big are the portions for every meal? When we have chicken and rice, you know, I do have, you know, a 6'5" brother who weighs almost 400 pounds, and a plate of rice is a lot bigger than my plate of rice, right? So it's like, what are the portions looking like? How do we feed our families that will make them feel like, it hurts my mom heart to have my baby Sam hungry, right? And so those words are triggering that I need to feed them. And so, you know, some of it is correlating to why we do have a diabetes epidemic within the PI community. And so how can we help figure out what does hungry mean? And what kind of foods can we help to people feel full and not feel that? So it's very individual. I think you need to find a provider that's willing to sit with you and take time. really, that's something that we would love to develop at the PI Health Board is a nutrition course where we could do this together. Um, so hopefully look for this in the future. We want to have a heart health clinic in a bundle and really go into the weeds with this and have a chef teach us how can we make teriyaki chicken appropriate, for us to eat and not feel guilty. Yeah.
Our last question, we have 4 minutes left, is spicy food harmful during pregnancy or breastfeeding? I heard it can cause eczema in babies.
Oh. Trinity, do you know this one?
I'll tell you what I know. I've been told that spicy food during pregnancy, that there isn't any like harm done to the developing baby. You may be more susceptible to something like heartburn, or some sort of like gastrointestinal discomfort with spicy food. But it isn't harmful to the baby, is what I've been taught at least. And it, also during breastfeeding, when like what you eat, your baby tastes, and it helps expand their palate and helps them turn into better eaters as toddlers, like because they're getting tastes of those foods through your milk. So again, from my education, spicy foods are on the table as long as they don't bother you during pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Trinity. Thank you, Tara. Oh, did
Yeah.
you?
I don't know if spicy foods causes eczema. Eczema is so hard. It's so hard to deal with, and it can also be really scary for families. So, if your baby does have eczema, there's a lot of different things that you're going to have to kind of narrow down what is the cause and the effect. So I'm sorry if you're going through that. Any mom or dad that's going through eczema with their baby, it's so frustrating and it's so sad. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I've also heard keeping, like, if your milk has like been in the freezer for way too long for folks who have pumped, don't throw it away, but you can like rub it on like broken skin spots. You can put it in like a warm bath and do like a breast milk bath. There's so many ways to use this like magical liquid that you produce that helps with skin and healing, including eczema. But yeah, it can be associated with so many different types of things, and it definitely it's a hard one for families.
Yeah.
I want to thank you both so much, Trinity and Tara, for coming on tonight and just sharing everything, your knowledge, your history, and experiences. We really appreciate it. So I'm gonna say before we go, oh, please, after this live ends, please stay on a little longer for us. And I do see, we can get to this question. Clara says, my community likes to eat raw tuna. Is that okay? Is canned foods such as tuna or mackerel healthy for expecting mothers?
There's a printout, I'll have to find a link, but there's like it's just about mercury levels, and it's not all tuna, it's not all canned fish. Certain brands, and depending on how they're caught and processed, can have higher levels of mercury. So tuna and mackerel, definitely fish is healthy for pregnant folks. We just want to look at the mercury levels depending on where you're getting it from.
The other thing, somebody asked a question about raw fish. What you want to do, because Japanese families, that's what they feed. In pregnancy, they do eat sushi, right? So the thing is, you have to have a very good source. So make sure that your source of fish is fresh and it's not sitting out very long. You want to make sure that it's healthy. And then if there's any way you can check the mercury level, that's the best thing you can do. I don't want to go, tell you can't have your cultural foods, but you want to make sure that your food is prepared fresh as you can, because you can get sick and your baby it can really affect your baby in it, and so you just want to make sure that you're doing the best you can. So
Before we end, I just want to say you can tell that I have some trust issues with technology because I felt like this thing was about to cut off. And I'm like looking at the countdown, like, oh my gosh, she's still talking. And then now it's already 6 and it's still on. So now we can end out smoothly. Thank you again so much. You two are very valued in our communities. As everyone, I'm hoping everybody was able to see that your hearts are in this work as it should be, and you bring so much value and knowledge to bettering us and just contributing to the overall well-being of our communities. So everyone, this is Kennedy and Tara. I'd like to say thank you. Thank you so much. You can reach them. Their information will be posted in the comments and on the end of this video. And we hope to have you guys back next month. Join us for a new live talk story.
Bye, everyone.